Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Moving Right Along, a Muppet movie podcast brought to you by toughpigs.com. It's the podcast where we watch Muppet Treasure Island 2 minutes at a time and talk about it a lot. I'm your host, Anthony Strand.
And I'm your other host, Ryan Rowe.
And joining us today, we have a return guest. He's been on a couple of times, but it's been quite a while, and we are thrilled to have him back. Guest, please introduce yourself.
Happily, I am Josh Spiegel.
Josh Spiegel. Wonderful.
Yeah.
It's fun. I was actually just looking. Because I came on your podcast to talk about Great Muppet Caper.
Yes, long time ago.
And I checked.
Galaxy far, far away.
Yeah. I checked, and it was just over 10 years ago that episode came out.
I feel like you were on the show at least one more time, weren't you? I feel like you were on the show a couple of times.
Yeah, I want to say 5. I
thought so.
Great Muppet Caper. I was on Tarzan. We should say Josh's podcast, which ended some years ago, was called Mouse Cinema, and is still out there, and you should listen to it if you like Disney movies.
Oh, yeah.
But let's see. I was on Great Muppet Caper, Tarzan, Mickey Mouse in Living Color, Volume 2. I watched First Kid, and then you got sick, I believe, so we never recorded it.
Oh. Well, you got to reunite to do the missing episode of Masterpiece Cinema.
We should do First Kid 2 minutes at a time.
Oh, no.
Can I tell you 2 things about that? I know it's way off topic, but A, if I recall correctly, the reason why I was sick, I had emergency appendectomy. This would have been summer 2016, almost 8 years ago to when we're recording. I'd forgotten that was the movie that obviously I was not able to record. My wife and I just rewatched that movie for the first time in a while. And I don't know that I would have been as flattering to it as I was when I was a kid. I really liked that as a kid, not as much now. But yeah, you were on the show a number of times. Masterpiece Cinema, a podcast that I bid farewell to right before the pandemic. So yeah, it's still out there if you want to listen to it.
If I remember right, your series finale was Rise of Skywalker, right?
Yeah, the best possible movie to end. Well, here,
what a note to go out on.
Now, hang on. Let's also. The first movie I ever did was Cars 2. So we started with Cars 2, and we ended with the Rise of Skywalker.
Okay.
Started strong, ended strong.
Yep. Yeah. Great. That is wonderful. But yeah, great show to listen to, and it was always a joy to be on, and it's a joy to talk to you once again about minutes 63 and 64 of Muppet Treasure Island. In these minutes, Long John gets a compass, and Kermit, Gonzo, and Rizzo get captured.
One of the scariest 2-minute clips we've had in a while, I think. Maybe.
You think so?
Yeah, I think so.
So we start on a close-up of Jim's hands, bound by rope, which is where we ended last time. And the camera swirls around, it's another nice directorial choice by Brian Henson, I think, that the camera moves around Jim's hands as we see this, and then around to Long John, who cuts the ropes and says, "I'm the only friend you've got in the world now, Jim."
Which is actually not true. It's just that his friends are, well, as far as Long John knows, Jim's friends are being held captive on the ship. But he does have them.
He does, but I think that this sets that creepy tone you're saying, right? This is very foreboding in Curry's delivery of this line.
Exactly.
I think the visual effect with the with the pigs that to me, I don't know, Ryan, if that's what you meant. I feel like that's probably the creepiest aspect of the scene, which of course is only creepy if we limit ourselves to the context of those 2 minutes, because a few minutes later they become a little less scary, especially when they are cowed by the boom boom sticks, as we all know.
But no, that's part of it for sure.
Yeah, so we'll get there. But first, Long John changes up his tone. He says, "Let's dig up the treasure together, eh, shipmates? Remember?" He is appealing to Jim's sense of nostalgia for, I don't know, 2 days ago, when they were... Yeah. When they were just buddies.
Although Jim has just not been buying into any of this stuff. He went through the whole professional pirate number and it was not persuaded at all. So
right. Well, and I think a good Kevin Bishop, I think, is very good here, because what he does is he just looks disappointed at Long John.
Right.
He doesn't look hurt anymore. He's just kind of like, okay, this again, you know?
Yeah.
Kind of a version of the "don't meet your heroes" type of
Yeah.
axiom,
Oh,
because
yeah.
this is obviously all, not that Long John was a long hero of his, but he started out with seeing him as this father figure earlier on in the film, with the connection that the two of them have, and pretty quickly gets demystified
Yeah, no,
by
he knows
Long
too much
John.
about him.
Yep.
Yeah. But then Long John makes his real desire clear. He says, "We'll be needing your compass, though." And this is when Jim speaks for the first time, just to simply say no. And Long John drops all pretense and says, "I'll be taking it either way, Jim."
There's a lot of pirates here. None of them thought to bring a compass for this this expedition where they knew they were going to have to follow a treasure map.
Well, I don't know how to respond to that because
I think we've
I-
I think we've seen by this point in the film that Long John is really the only pirate with half a brain in
that's
his head.
true. Yeah. Yeah. Maybe one of
So
them
it's really
has a
on him.
compass and just
It's on him that he didn't have a compass. I
right, he's
think.
the leader. Yeah.
That's true. Yes.
Yeah. Maybe somebody had one and they left it on the ship in their hurry to get off.
Yeah, they lost it. It went overboard during cabin fever.
I would buy that. Yeah.
They threw it. They were dancing the samba and they threw it over.
Yeah.
But then Jim looks very sad as he unwinds it and he hands it over to Long John. But Long John and the pirates are not forlorn. They all cheer. They are very enthusiastic about getting a compass.
These are very jolly pirates.
It's true,
For
especially
as,
now that they're on the island. Like
yeah,
they're
for
not.
as menacing as they are, they've been very happy for the last several scenes.
Yeah. And then as Long John walks away, he says, "Come on then, lad. Let's not waste time." Which is good. I like that. I mean, well, we've said this 1,000 times. I like everything Tim Curry does in this movie.
Yeah.
Like he's the best thing about it.
I think I'm going to hint at my later ranking here. I think it's the best human performance in a Muppet movie. I think that he and Michael Caine's a close second in Christmas Carol, but Tim Curry so gets the Muppet sensibility, and it is
Mhm.
such a big, bold, go for broke performance without actually like feeling distracting or cartoonish. It's very precisely modulated, since he's interacting with primarily people underneath underneath the characters he's actually interacting with, and it's in moments like this, I am anew impressed at his acting abilities here.
Yeah.
Sure. Yeah, absolutely. Long John said, "Let's not waste any time." And indeed, the movie doesn't, because we cut directly to Kermit, Gonzo, and Rizzo, who are also on the island walking among some rocks. And Kermit is carrying a lantern, which I think is such an adorable little prop. Just this little Kermit-sized lantern.
Where's that lantern now?
Oh, good question. Who's the prop master on this movie?
Ooh, I don't
Do we
remember.
know?
I don't
Ed
know.
Buchholz or somebody?
Maybe.
But anyways, yeah, maybe someone who worked on the movie has it. So if
Yeah.
you're listening to this and you know where Kermit's lantern is,
Yeah, let us know. They should auction it off like those costumes a couple years ago at Planet Hollywood.
Yep. And one time, our friend Dan Romans drew me a picture of Kermit as a Green Lantern.
Oh,
So
nice.
I have that, but I don't have this. Thanks, Dan.
That's
What a
pretty
guy.
good though. Yeah.
Yeah, it looks great.
Was he doing the Green Lantern oath?
He's not doing the oath. He's like in mid-flight, holding his ring like up to the camera, like
Cool.
to the audience perspective.
Yeah.
It's cool. It looks great. This was like 15 years ago, probably.
Huh.
But anyways, in this movie,
Anyways.
Kermit does something less cool, which is a clunky expository line of dialogue, which is, "Well, it's too dark to do anything now. We'll camp here and wait for first light."
That's it. That's what he says.
Which is fine. It's certainly workmanlike. But I feel
Yeah.
like there is a lot of that. We've talked about this. There's a lot of that in this movie where it's just like we need to reassure the younger members of the audience that like explain to them what is happening.
Yeah.
You know?
Unfortunately, an awful lot of it falls on Kermit.
Yeah. What do you think about Kermit in this movie, Josh?
Well, I mean, part of it is it's the nature of which character he's been assigned. I mean, I think that by giving him the solid, straightforward captain role, I mean, it means there's only, first of all, it makes sense based on the characters from the Stevenson book, who's
Yeah.
Kermit going to play, but it also means that he is almost naturally a less exciting character. And we know from other Muppet movies, from the Muppet Show, that Kermit can play the straight man type without being dull automatically, but I do. I mean, I don't know. I feel like it's less. I think it's less of a problem here than it is in Muppet Christmas Carol, but in that story as well, by having him play Bob Cratchit, the kind of inherently 100% good, almost one-dimensionally good character, there's maybe less room for him, for both Kermit as a character and for Steve Whitmire as a performer to show his multidimensionality as a performer, which we know Steve Whitmire has from playing characters like Rizzo. But yeah, I mean, I think that he is fine here, but you know, for future episodes, the captain becomes a lot more interesting once Benjamin Gunn shows up and the two of them have to
That's
interact
true.
with each other.
For sure, 100%.
Yeah.
Thank you. But then Steve Whitmire does get to do something else immediately because because Rizzo starts shivering with fear, and Gonzo says, "Hey, Rizzo, relax. Don't be afraid." But then Rizzo says, "I've gone way beyond afraid. Right now, I'm somewhere between bedwetting and a near-death experience." So Gonzo laughs at this to reassure us that it's funny. But is it
Gonzo
though?
laughs at Riz's pain and fear.
Yeah, that's true. Gonzo, well, to be fair, Gonzo loves pain.
Yeah,
And
it's true.
doesn't really know fear. So
Yeah, pain is great to him.
but is it do you guys like this one? Do you like that joke?
I feel like it could use this joke could use a rewrite. I don't know what it should be, but I had never really thought about it because, we're watching it 2 minutes at a time this time. But
Right, it goes by so quick.
yeah, I don't know. Bedwetting, that just seems kind of lazy.
I think the question is it from, if the scale of terror is bedwetting, is the next one near-death experience, or is there something in between that Rizzo left out? I mean, I think it makes sense for the character to have. I was gonna say, I think it makes sense for the character to have that approach, just because, I mean, roughly 50 minutes ago within the film, he was saying he died, and this is supposed to be a kids' movie. Talking about how Billy Bones has been, attacked, and I think he's the one who kind of realizes the gravity of the situation more than, not even Gonzo, who, as we all know, is kind of a delighted masochist in this film.
Yeah, for sure.
I bet kids like the bedwetting joke though.
I'm sure I laughed at it when I was age 11 going on 12.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, I'm trying to remember if my kids laughed at that last time we watched this. Miles probably did. Miles loves that kind of stuff.
There you go.
My 6-year-old. But then Kermit turns off the light, and then the characters have what I think of as cartoon eyeballs. Like I think they are still physical props. I think
they are. I have.
Do you know how they did this, Ryan?
Yes. So
yeah, please tell me.
Well, this is something that we see in animation and comic strips a lot, where it's a lot easier to do because you just draw white eyeballs. But it's harder to do in live action. On TV tropes, there's an entry for this, unsurprisingly. It's called By the Lights of Their Eyes. The other example that I think of from a live action movie is Pee-wee's Big Adventure.
Same.
When he's stranded on the side of the highway alone at night and it's dark and you see his eyeballs floating in the dark until he puts on his night vision goggles.
Excuse me, Ryan, he puts on his headlight glasses.
Headlight glasses. Okay, thank you. So here, though, Brian Henson talks about this on the DVD commentary. These are just the puppets' regular eyes, and they painted them with 3M glass paint. So this is like a paint made out of tiny, tiny glass beads that reflect light. So wow. I guess there's some, like they shut off most of the lights on the set, but there's some light source that's still providing enough light so that their eyeballs are reflecting it. Very cool. And it looks better, I think, than it would have if they had just animated it, because it just looks like it's still the puppets. It has like the weight of the puppet performance.
Yeah, that's really cool practically, I think.
Yeah.
I mean, that heightens the creepiness of the scene once there are all those other eyeballs that we weren't expecting to see, for sure.
Yeah.
Right, and that's what happens. All of a sudden we see a bunch more pairs of eyes, many more pairs of eyes, and we hear a lot of snorting, which I think is really funny.
Yes.
But why are they snorting? Well, Rizzo lights a match, and soon our heroes are surrounded by pigs in traditional racial caricature island warrior gear.
Yeah, we'll probably
I
be
was going to
talking
say,
more about
where
that.
are you taking that sentence after traditional? I'm very curious.
Yeah. And we'll talk more about that in coming weeks. But Josh, you're not going to be here in coming weeks. I don't mean to
know.
put you on the spot, but like, how what do you think about these guys now as an adult or when you were a kid? Like, just
Well,
and
certainly.
thoughts you want to share.
Oh no, yeah, sure. I mean, certainly as a kid, I think it mostly. I'm sure that I had read like a classic illustrated version of Treasure Island, but I didn't know it very well. So I'm sure at some point around here, I was thinking to myself, "Is Miss Piggy going to show up in this film?" I know that we see
Huh.
her briefly with that picture, and I think you hear her, like kind of like a forgotten memory from Smollett that you hear a little bit of her talking earlier in the film, but we obviously don't see her because the character of Ben Gunn in the real story and Benjamin Gunn in this version hasn't shown up. But I think when I saw the pigs, probably my first thought was, "Oh, I bet Miss Piggy's going to show up now." Yeah, pretty soon, right?
Right.
That was my reaction as a kid. I think now, I uh, uh, I don't know that this here. I don't remember off the top of my head if Disney Plus has smacked the boring legal boilerplate in front of this to say basically something in this movie might be offensive or questionable. Don't
Oh
worry
yeah,
about it.
no.
Just watch the movie. I think that they probably could get away with not putting that there because it's pigs. It's not actual people. And when you hear that their tribe is called Spam, it's obviously not meant to recall any like real life connotations, but at the same time, I think that the costumes they're wearing are certainly meant to make you think of kind of the broad stereotype of natives that you might have found in an earlier iteration of like Jungle Cruise at the Disney theme parks, which was definitely very questionable or
Right.
racially insensitive. I don't know that I would say it gives me pause the way that some other Disney films give me pause now as an adult, and that I forget off the top of my head, Anthony, you mentioned we talked about Tarzan. I wonder how much we talked about the questionable aspects of the movie like that in that episode way back when. But I mean, this one I can't say would
Yeah.
throw me off in quite the same way, but I also say that as a cishet white guy. So,
Right.
I acknowledge
same.
that my limitations here in this conversation.
Yeah, actually, we should say if there's anyone out there who's maybe a, a little, I don't know, a little closer to this, anyone from an indigenous culture who happens to be a Muppet fan and has opinions or thoughts on this, we would love to hear from you what you think about these characters.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. Well, I just checked by the way, and it does not have the long disclaimer on
Hmm.
Disney.
Yeah,
Okay.
maybe they're just unspecific enough because I don't know. Like the island is in the Caribbean, right? That's where they're going when
Yeah.
we see the
Yes.
map.
Yeah.
So, but then when we actually see the pigs, like it's kind of a hodgepodge of different stereotypes as far as like the way they're dressed. Like they have the tiki statues, which we associate more with Polynesian cultures.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah,
Right.
maybe the fact that like it's a little bit offensive to every indigenous culture. Maybe
Right.
It's
Right.
equal
Well,
opportunity. That's what
yeah,
it is.
that's why they didn't feel the need to put the disclaimer.
Yeah.
yeah, and as we said, we'll have plenty of time to get into this more in the weeks
Yes,
ahead.
yes.
This is obviously not our last look at these guys, but it is our last look at them for these 2 minutes because these pigs grab the three friends and carry them off, and that's the last we see of any of them until next week. But we do see Long John and his crew more, and they come upon some skeletons hanging from branches. Long John says Flint hung them up here after he gullied them to mark the trail to the treasure. Now, Ryan, earlier you were keeping track of how many times they say kill, dead, and stuff in this movie.
Yeah. I lost track of that list. I'll find it again someday.
Right.
Or I'll just
But
watch the movie again and make the list all over again. But
yeah, and then you can update our listeners. But gully is a new word for killing in this movie.
I think
It,
there was another. I think Billy Bones used the word gully
oh,
once
did he?
early on. I
Okay.
think so.
Okay. Well, so it means to stab with a large knife.
Yeah.
And what I find really unsettling here, though, is he says Flint hung them up here after he gullied them to mark the trail to the treasure, which means these are not the only one. Like we're going to see more corpses
Yeah.
on our way to the treasure.
And he couldn't just leave it at one. He couldn't just hang up one dead guy. He had to kill three people and put all three of them up in a tree.
Yeah,
It's
it's a
pretty
lot.
excessive. Yeah.
It's also a warning. It's a very
Yeah,
effective
yeah,
one.
that's true.
He's not messing around.
Yeah.
Uh, Clueless Morgan says that it is a sign that this is a cursed place.
I like the leaning on that pronunciation there. I'd forgotten that he did that when I rewatched it today. I was like,
Cursed
I like
place with
the
an accent mark
yes,
over the E.
yeah, I like that. Yep.
Good. Long John does not think it's good. He rolls his eyes. He rolls his eyes and says, "Now there's an informed opinion." But like, Clueless is not being an idiot here. I don't think. Like,
No, but also what was Clueless expecting? Because he was joining this band that was going to find treasure that was hidden by a bloodthirsty pirate captain who killed all his men. Presumably, he
yes,
knew that.
and keep in mind that earlier in this movie, Clueless himself says that he likes to cut a throat.
Yeah, yeah, that's true.
So he
So,
shouldn't be that freaked out. He
right,
likes
so
to cut
he's
throats.
maybe overreacting a little,
I was gonna
given the
say,
context.
I think the line would have worked if it was Rizzo saying it, for example. We've already talked about
Yeah,
how fearful he is, and he would understandably be pretty terrified if he, if it was a character like that, or if it was Jim saying it, because Jim doesn't have the same worldly experience with dead bodies hanging around so much.
I would like to hear Rizzo say, "This is a coised place."
That's true. Yeah, that would be more fun. But he's not even here. He's not even in this scene. He just got kidnapped.
True.
Uh, but then Long John asks Jim where to go, and Jim reads some directions on the map.
Jim is the GPS.
Yep.
Jim is the GPS, yes. And then Long John says that way, and that's where we end. They're gonna head
So the
off.
instructions are walk 312 paces from where
Yes.
the dead men hang high. But I always wonder in stories like this, whose paces? Because
Hmm.
some of these Muppet pirates have very short legs, so they would have very short strides. Whereas, Sweetums, like 2 paces to Sweetums I don't know, like 15 paces to Bagoonie or one of these little Muppets.
So since you brought that up, an episode of Sesame Street that I remember very fondly from my youth,
Yeah.
and thanks to Muppet Wiki, I know now that it is episode 2525,
Awesome.
in which the character, so this is from season 20,
Yeah.
and the characters are counting how far it is from Big Bird's nest to Snuffy's cave.
Ah.
And here, let me see here. They count how many steps it takes, and then they are confused because it's not the same amount of steps for each of them.
Right.
And what they end up learning is that it is 2,000 Big Bird steps, 5,000 Snuffy steps. He has to take 4 steps at a time, of course.
Oh yeah.
And then they end up making Bob do it so that they can measure, and it is 3,000 Bob steps. So
It
Okay.
would be a very like Monty Python-esque touch in this movie if it had been 312 paces. Oh no, but not your 312 paces. His 312. Like if it was like
yeah,
swapping between different characters. Like wait, go back to the start. Let's try it
Right.
again.
Or
Right.
if it said that on the map, yeah, that'd be great.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
Only this one pirate, Flynn's 312 paces. Not even Long John.
yes,
Slight height difference. It's going to just throw off the entire map.
Yeah.
yeah.
Unless
And
this actually is just occurring to me, unless a pace is an actual unit of measurement, which that's possible, but
I don't think I've ever heard
no,
that.
I don't think so.
No,
Um,
I hear paces. I just think steps or strides,
Yeah.
as we've said. Yeah.
but it would be really good if the map said 312 Bob steps.
Yes.
And then Bob McGrath had
Bob. Wait, who's Bob?
A
Get
cameo
Bob. Bring
from
him up
Bob
here.
in Muppet Treasure Island.
what if he was? Wouldn't it be nice to see him?
I would love it, yeah.
But yeah, either way, that's the end of the clip. So any other thoughts about these 2 minutes? Josh, I'll start with you.
I need to be emphatic here. I love the line delivery of, well, there's an informed opinion. That is such a, and I mean you get the eye roll afterwards, but it's a very big performance from Tim Curry, but there it's like one of the driest, most deadpan deliveries that I don't know when I was a kid if I thought it was funny, but as I returned to the film often as an adult, that is one of my favorite lines because it's the same as Scar in The Lion King saying, "I'm surrounded by idiots," because not just the line, but the look on his face of saying, "I can't believe these are the guys I'm working with."
Yeah.
Not Tim Curry saying that. Long John saying, "These are the pirates I have to deal with." I love that line.
Yeah.
Yeah, awesome. All right, Ryan, anything else?
I have a little bit from the June 1st, 1994 draft of the screenplay. There's a little bit that happens sort of in between these scenes. After the scene that is basically the spoken equivalent of professional pirate, we see all the pirates drinking a lot out of barrels labeled apple juice. And then later we see them all passed out. And then Stevenson the parrot makes an appearance. This is
Oh, wow.
the parrot who pops up occasionally, insisting that he's the author of the book Treasure Island. He shows up and actually he strolls. This is in the how it's described. He strolls by smoking a cigar. So, and then he says to Jim, "What would you say to the two of us running away and starting another story?" And then Jim sighs and rolls away from him because they're all like lying around a fire. So Jim is not interested in going into another story.
Sure.
Yeah.
Great. I have one thing. I'm going to open up the strange case here. And in Treasure Island, the novel, Flint does indeed leave human bones to mark the way to the treasure.
Mm,
So that is something that is straight out of the book.
okay.
Also, the actual name of the island in the book, they call it Treasure Island because they're looking for treasure there, but the actual name is Skeleton Island. That's the name of the island.
Whoa.
So there's a couple of things. Unfortunately, we do not know if Captain Smollett carries an adorable lantern.
Too bad.
Nothing about that. So before we go, Josh, we ask all of our guests two questions, and the first one is, what is your history with the movie?
So I know that, correct me if I'm wrong, this came out around President's Day weekend of 96, right? February 96, I
Yep,
want to
that's
say.
right.
Yes. So I remember seeing this with my mother. I would have been, again, 11 going on 12. I was in sixth grade. And I think my dad may have been on a business trip. It was just the two of us who saw it on a Sunday night. And I only know that because it had to have been the holiday weekend because my mother was uh, my mother was very strict about what I could or couldn't see, and I would not have gone to see a movie on a Sunday night if it had a school day the next
Mm,
day.
right.
And I mean, I have always loved the Muppets. The Muppets were something where I remember just watching VHS copies of the show when I was a kid. I I don't remember if I've ever shared this. It's about Muppet Christmas Carol. One of the times I saw Muppet Christmas Carol in theaters, it was me and my aunt and nobody else. The entire theater was empty. It
Oh
was
wow.
just the two of us on a weeknight in December because I'd already seen it once and I wanted to see it again. This one, I mean, I remember which theater I saw it at. It was in Amherst, New York. I don't know why I remember which theater I saw it at, but I saw
Huh.
it at the AMC Maple Ridge. If anybody is listening and knows that theater, that's where I saw it. And I remember really enjoying it. I remember laughing a lot. And I forget if it was before or after we began recording. The Henry Kissinger joke was something that I remember not only that I laughed at, but that my mom really laughed very hard at. I
Yeah.
think partly because it's just such a random, unexpected visual gag. But there were so many things about it that I just remember laughing so hard at. I mean, when I was a kid, I don't know if bedwetting made me laugh, but blind, ew, that like the line delivery of that name, or the running gag about people thinking Jim is a girl. I don't know why that made me laugh, but it made me laugh. And I think as an adult, what makes me laugh is thinking, I wonder how Kevin Bishop felt about that joke
Oh
because
yeah.
it's a weird dig at him and the fact that he had a very high pitched register as a young actor. I mean, the I forget off the top of my head, I forget the name of the song that he and Long John sing part of earlier on. He has a very high voice when he has his lyrics to sing.
Yeah, that's in
Um,
Sailing for Adventure.
yes, Sailing for Adventure. Thank
Yeah.
you for reminding me. But yeah, so I mean, as a kid, I loved it, and it was a film that I had on VHS, and you know, VHS turned to DVD, DVD turned to Blu-ray, and it's just something that I always return to. I know many people in my generation, including my wife, for one, would say, well, Muppet Christmas Carol is the best of the 90s films. And I would say, and this I think might lead into your next question, Anthony. I would say, no, it's not.
Mm.
Muppet Treasure Island is, I, I remember when the 40th anniversary of the Muppet movie came out, I did a list at Slash Film, one of the sites that I freelance at, and it was the ranking of the 8 Muppet movies. And I naturally had Muppet Treasure Island as the second best Muppet movie because it is the second best Muppet movie. And I didn't realize until after it published that lots of people were going to be very angry at me about that. And I mean, I think among the people who got mad at me online, I think the guy who writes like the Minions movies, his name is Brian Lynch. He posted, like, he didn't post
He's
at
a
me
big
directly,
Muppet
but
fan, yeah.
he and I, and no denying that, and I'm glad that he is. But I forget the exact way he phrased it. He quote tweeted the Slash Film post, and it was like, "This is like," he was infuriated at it, and it's like, I know people like The Great Muppet Caper. I get that. It's a fine movie, but Muppet Treasure Island has Long John Silver shooting a skeleton and then somebody saying, "But Dead Tom's always been dead. That's why he's called Dead Tom," which I know is coming up in a few minutes. It is one of the, like, there's just so many moments in this movie that I think are among the funniest bits in any Muppet movie. And I think, bringing to the larger point of the 90s movies, the reason why I think this is so much better than Muppet Christmas Carol, as much as I think Michael Caine is excellent as Scrooge, and he really is,
yeah,
that movie feels like a Christmas Carol movie that happens to have some Muppets in it. Whereas this feels like a actual anarchic Muppet movie. This feels like the kind of movie that Jim Henson would have made had he still been alive. This feels like it has that spirit to it, whereas the Muppet Christmas Carol, I think, is, both because it came a couple of years after Henson's passing, after the passing of Richard Hunt as well. And, you know, I can only begin to imagine how many of the people involved, not just Brian Henson, but everybody else, kind of figuring out, what do we do next? How do we proceed forward after such incalculable losses? It feels very somber. It feels a lot more dark and dour, and it's effective at that. But this is the kind of movie that I associate with the Muppets, and it just never fails to make me laugh. Cabin Fever is such a ridiculous, goofy song. And now, as an adult, all I think to myself is, I really wish Tim Curry had gotten to take part in that song, because he would have been so great in that moment. But he is one of the only notable absences in that song. And I know it's for story reasons, but it's like, oh, he would have been hilarious in that scene.
Right.
But then it leads to him having the number you both just spoke about in your most recent episodes. Professional Pirate is such a great song. And it's not just the fourth wall breaking, "This is my only number" line. He dives into that with such gusto and elan. And I said it before, I think it's the best human performance in a Muppet movie. I think Gonzo and Rizzo are hilarious. I enjoy the stuff with Piggy. And, you know, I also, talking about eyeballs, I know this is going to come up soon. I think there is a great visual gag, speaking of Kermit and Piggy, at the end of Love Let Us Here, with his eyes getting so bulging out so much because he's barely able to hold on to her because of how heavy she is. Just, there's so many great gags in it. It never fails to make me laugh. This is one of my favorite, again, second best Muppet movie. It's one of my favorite kind of like comfort food movies. I just always return to it and never lets me down.
Awesome. Yeah, so yes, you did answer the second question, which for the record was, where would you rank it? So Thank you again so much, Josh, for coming on. And listeners, thank you for listening to the show. We will be back next week with another episode. But in the meantime, you can always find Tough Pigs on the internet. We're on Facebook. We're on Bluesky. We're on Instagram. We're all over the place. You can follow me on Blue Sky at Durwood Clapper. And you can follow Ryan on Blue Sky at me, Ryan Rowe. You can follow me on Letterboxd at Zeppo Marxist, and Ryan on Letterboxd at Movies Are Neat. Josh, remind us where our listeners can find you or your work online.
Of course. Easiest place to find me is Blue Sky. I am there at Masterpiece because, as Anthony mentioned, used to have that old podcast, Masterpiece Cinema. I do have a Substack, but I will be honest, I have let it lay dormant precisely because it's funny. I'm not thrilled at how the Substack folks have been handling issues regarding the trans community, and so my very tiny protest is not having regular posts there. I used to do Disney brackets there and previously on Twitter, but I feel like it's been getting close with Blue Sky. They're beginning to add video. They're getting all sorts of people from Brazil. My hope is that very soon they will add polls, because I would love to bring back some polls. But yeah, I'm on Blue Sky. I'm on Letterboxd at Masterpiece. I'm fairly active there. Aside from that, I am fortunate enough to freelance at outlets such as the aforementioned Slash Film. I am also, the week that we're recording this, making my debut at the revitalized AV Club with a couple of posts. Very excited about
nice.
that. Yes, I don't know when is this episode going to be going up. I don't know how early I can tease things or not.
About a month from now, I think.
Oh boy! Well, in that case, yes. A couple of things will have already gone up. I reviewed a new miniseries on Peacock with Kevin Hart in the 70s. It's Kevin Hart, Don Cheadle, a Muhammad Ali thing. I wish it was more exciting than it sounds. I also have an essay up there this month about Martin Short and how he is the modern answer to Don Rickles in the world of talk shows. Again, best place to see me ease out where I post things is Blue Sky. Those are Blue Sky and Letterboxd. Those are the easiest places to find me.
All right.
Yeah, that all sounds great.
And once again, thank you so much for being here, Josh. Always
thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
Great. And thanks as well to Morgan Davy for designing our logo. I had not said that yet. And listeners, you can always become a patron of ours on Patreon. Forgot to say that as well. But in the meantime, we'll see you next week for another one. Goodbye.
Bye.
Oh, I was on the Shaggy DA episode of your podcast, Josh.